The throne room of Empress Thalia stretched for nearly 1,000 meters. Giant pillars of black stone rose toward a ceiling so high it disappeared into shadow. Thousands of Villani nobles stood in perfect rows, their silver skin glowing softly in the dim light. They had 4 eyes each, and all those eyes were fixed on their queen. Thalia sat upon a throne made from the bones of conquered species. She was tall, even for a Villani, and her body was covered in ceremonial armor that had been worn by Villani rulers for 10,000 years. Her 4 eyes swept across the crowd with cold satisfaction. Today was tribute day. Representatives from 47 conquered star systems had come to offer gifts and bow before her power. One by one, they approached the throne. Some brought rare metals, others brought slaves, a few brought weapons or technology stolen from dead civilizations. Thalia accepted each tribute with a small nod. She did not smile. She did not thank them. She simply watched as her empire's wealth grew larger. The Villani had ruled this sector of the galaxy for 300 years. Before that, there had been a war. A terrible war against a species called humans. But the humans were gone now, disappeared into the darkness of space. Some said they had fled. Others said they had all died. Most young Villani did not believe humans had ever existed at all. They were just stories, scary tales told to children who would not sleep. Thalia remembered differently. She had been young during the last days of the war, but she remembered the fear in her mother's eyes. She remembered the emergency broadcasts, the destroyed fleets, the name that was whispered in terror across every Villani world, the Iron Ghost. But that was 300 years ago. The ghost was dead. The humans were gone. The Villani had won. As the last tribute was presented, a door at the far end of the throne room burst open. A young officer ran forward, breaking every rule of ceremony. Guards moved to stop him. But something in his face made them pause. He was terrified. The officer fell to his knees before the throne, gasping for breath. "My Empress," he said. "Forgive me. I bring urgent news." Thalia leaned forward slightly. "Speak." "The old beacon," the officer said. "The one at the edge of known space. It has activated. With not a 5, activated. The one the Untenext, the one the Ran." The throne room fell completely silent. Thalia felt her heart stop beating for a moment. She knew which beacon he meant. Every Villani commander knew about that beacon. It was a warning system, built 300 years ago to detect a specific type of ship signature. A human ship signature. "That is impossible," Thalia said. Her voice was calm, but her hands gripped the armrests of her throne. "The beacon has been silent for centuries. It is probably broken." "1. My Empress," the officer said. "We checked the signal 17 times. It is real. Something has entered our space. Something old. Something human." Whispers erupted throughout the throne room. The nobles looked at each other with confusion and fear. Most of them had never heard a human mentioned as anything but a myth. Then, an old voice cut through the noise. "Clear the room." Everyone turned to look at the speaker. He was ancient, even by Villani standards. His silver skin had faded to gray, and he walked with a heavy limp. One of his 4 eyes was blind, covered by a scar that ran across his face. Lord Ven, the oldest living Villani, the last survivor of the High Command that had fought the human war. Thalia nodded slowly. "You heard him." "Everyone out," the nobles protested, but the guards moved quickly. Within minutes, the massive throne room was empty, except for Thalia, Lord Ven, and a handful of trusted advisors. Ven limped toward the throne, each step clearly painful. When he reached the base of the stairs, he stopped and looked up at his Empress. "You know what this means," he said. It was not a question. "It means nothing," Thalia replied. "One old beacon activating does not prove anything. The humans are dead." "Are they?" Ven asked. "We never found their home. We never found their colony ships. We assumed they died in the void because it was easier than admitting the truth." "And what truth is that?" Ven's three working eyes met her four. That we never defeated them. They chose to leave. And now, perhaps, they have chosen to return. Thalia stood from her throne and walked down the stairs. She was much taller than the old advisor. But somehow, at this moment, he seemed larger than her. Even if some humans survived, she said, they are primitive creatures. They live barely 100 years. They are weak, soft, and emotional. Our technology has advanced far beyond theirs. What threat could they possibly pose? Ven laughed. It was a dry, bitter sound. You speak like someone who has never faced them in battle. I have. I was there when they refused to surrender. I was there when they turned their own ships into bombs and flew them into our fleet formations. I was there when they fought to the last child, the last elder, the last drop of blood. He pointed to his scarred face. I received this wound from a human female who weighed half as much as my arm. She had been shot 3 times. She was dying, and still she fought. Still she clawed at me. Still she tried to kill me with her final breath. Thalia said nothing. But the beacon, Ven continued, does not worry me because of humans in general. It worries me because of one human. In particular, the Iron Ghost is a legend, Thalia said, a story that grew larger with each telling. I met him, Ven said quietly. Once, during the Battle of 7 Moons, he boarded my ship alone. Alone, Empress. He killed 40 of my best warriors before we even knew he was there. I shot him twice in the chest. He kept coming. I have never, in all my centuries of life, felt such fear. Ven reached into his robe and pulled out a small object. It was a piece of metal, twisted and burned. Human writing was scratched into its surface. He left this for me, Ven said, after he destroyed my ship's engines and escaped. I have kept it for 300 years as a reminder. Thalia took the metal piece. The human writing was simple, just 3 words. What does it say? Ven's voice dropped to a whisper. It says, I remember everything. The throne room suddenly felt very cold. Thalia looked at the ancient words, then at the old warrior who had carried them for 3 centuries. Send a fleet to investigate the beacon, she ordered. Our best ships. Our best commander. And if they find him, Thalia crushed the metal piece in her fist. Then they will kill him. The Iron Ghost is just a man. And all men can die. Ven bowed his head, but his expression suggested he did not believe her. Neither, in the darkest part of her hearts, did Thalia herself. The imperial archives were buried deep beneath the capital city. Most Villani did not even know they existed. Here, in endless halls of crystal storage devices, the true history of the Empire was kept. The parts that were too dangerous for common people to know. Lord Ven walked slowly through the dusty corridors. Behind him, Empress Thalia followed in silence. She had demanded to see the records for herself. She needed to understand what they might be facing. The war began 312 years ago, Ven said as they walked. We discovered humanity by accident. A small colony on a green world at the edge of our expansion zone. We thought they would be easy to conquer. He stopped at a large crystal screen and pressed his hand against it. Images appeared in the air. Ships, battles, death. At first, we were right, Ven continued. Humans were technologically inferior. Their weapons could barely scratch our shields. We conquered their first 3 colonies in a matter of weeks. The images showed Villani soldiers marching through human cities, human prisoners being led away in chains, human children crying for parents they would never see again. But then something changed, Ven said. They learned. They adapted. They studied every weapon we used against them and found ways to counter it. Within a year, they were shooting down our fighters. Within 2 years, they had captured one of our warships and figured out how to fly it. New images appeared. Human soldiers in stolen Villani armor. Human pilots flying alien ships. Human engineers building weapons that should have been impossible for them to understand. We underestimated them, Ven admitted. We saw their short lives as a weakness, but it was actually their greatest strength. They did not have centuries to waste on careful planning. They had to act quickly, learn quickly, change quickly. Every generation was different from the last. Thalia watched the images in silence. She had heard stories about human adaptability, but seeing the evidence was different. The war continued for decades, Ven said. We had numbers and technology on our side. They had determination and creativity on theirs. For every world we conquered, they made us pay a terrible price. He moved to another crystal screen. This one showed a single human face. The man was young in this image. Perhaps 30 human years. He had black hair cut short and dark eyes that seemed to look directly through the screen. His face was ordinary, neither handsome nor ugly. He looked like any other human soldier, but there was something in his eyes, something cold, something patient, something that would not break. Do-Hyun Kang, Ven said, born on a farming colony called New Busan. He was a simple soldier when the war began. A sergeant. Nothing special. More images appeared. A beautiful woman with a gentle smile. A small girl with her father's eyes. His wife was named Suman. His daughter was named Yuna. They were his entire world. The next image made Thalia look away. The colony of New Busan. Burning. Bodies in the streets. Ships in the sky. Raining fire. We destroyed New Busan in the 3rd year of the war, Ven said. It was meant to be a message. A demonstration of our power. We killed everyone. The men. The women. The children. The elderly. We left no survivors. He paused. Or so we thought. A new image appeared. Security footage from a Vallani supply ship. A human figure moved through the corridors, silent as a shadow. He killed 6 guards before anyone even raised an alarm. Then he disappeared with a shuttle full of weapons and supplies. Do-Hyun Kang survived, Ven said. His wife and daughter did not. Something inside him changed that day. The simple soldier died with his family. What remained was something else. Entirely. The images became a flood now. Ship after ship destroyed. Base after base attacked. Vallani officers found dead in their own quarters, with no sign of how the killer had entered or escaped. He fought alone for the first 5 years, Ven said. He learned to pilot our ships. He studied our language, our tactics, our weaknesses. He became a ghost that haunted our supply lines and border patrols. One man did all this? Thalia asked. One man started it, Ven replied. But he did not stay alone for long. He rescued prisoners. He freed slaves. He trained them to fight like he did. Soon there were dozens of humans following him. Then hundreds. Then thousands. An image showed a fleet of mismatched ships, human and Vallani designs combined. At the center flew a single vessel, covered in marks and symbols. They called him the Iron Ghost, Ven said. Because he could not be killed. We shot him, stabbed him, burned him, poisoned him. He always came back. Our soldiers began to believe he was not human at all. They thought he was a demon or a spirit of vengeance. But he is just a man, Thalia said. He must be. I used to think so too, Ven said. Until I met him. The old Vallani pulled up one more image. It showed himself, 300 years younger, standing on the bridge of a burning ship. And there, walking through the flames like they did not exist, was Do-Hyun Kang. He was covered in blood, some of it his own. His eyes held no anger, no hatred, no emotion at all. He looked at the young Ven, the way a farmer might look at an insect. He could have killed me, Ven said. He had killed everyone else on my ship. But he stopped. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he spoke. What did he say? He said, go home. Tell your Empress what you saw today. Tell her that I will never stop. Tell her that I will watch her empire burn, and I will remember every moment of it, just as I remember every moment I spent with my wife and daughter. Tell her that Do Hyun Kang sends his regards. Ven's voice was quiet. Then he walked away. He let me live because he wanted his message delivered. Because he wanted us to be afraid. Thalia stared at the image of the young human warrior. What happened to him? The records say the attacks stopped 200 years ago. The humans disappeared, Ven said. Their fleet, their colonies, everything. They simply vanished beyond the rim of known space. We searched for decades, but found nothing. Most assumed they had died out there in the darkness. And Kang? His attacks continued for another 100 years after the main human fleet disappeared. He kept hunting us, kept killing us, kept leaving his message carved into the wreckage. Ven touched his scarred face. Then, 200 years ago, even he went silent. We assumed he had finally died. Humans live such short lives. Thalia thought about this. 300 years. No human could live that long. It was impossible, unless the humans had found something out there in the darkness. Some way to extend their lives. Some way to keep their greatest warrior alive. Waiting, preparing. If he is truly alive, she said slowly, then he has had 3 centuries to prepare for this moment. Ven nodded. 3 centuries to study us? 3 centuries to gather his strength? 3 centuries to plan his revenge? The images faded. The archive fell silent. Find him, Thalia ordered. Find him and destroy him. I will not let one old human threaten my empire. But as she turned to leave, she could not shake the feeling that somewhere out there in the cold darkness of space, Do Hyun Kang was watching, waiting, remembering. Commander Seraph was the youngest fleet commander in Villani history. She had earned her position through skill and ruthlessness, destroying pirates and crushing rebellions across a dozen star systems. She feared nothing and no one. When Empress Thalia gave her the mission to investigate the beacon, Seraph had smiled. Finally, a chance to prove herself against a worthy enemy. She had grown up hearing stories about the Iron Ghost, and she had always believed they were exaggerated. Humans were primitive creatures. One old human soldier could not possibly be a threat to the Villani Empire. She took 12 warships with her, the finest vessels in the Imperial fleet. Each one carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Her crew numbered over 20,000 Villani warriors, all of them eager for battle. The journey to the beacon took 3 weeks. They traveled through empty space, past dead worlds and forgotten colonies. The further they went from Villani territory, the darker the stars seemed to become. We are approaching the beacon's location, her navigation officer reported. Long-range sensors show no ships in the area. Take us in slowly, Seraph ordered. Full combat readiness. The fleet moved forward in perfect formation. Seraph stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the main display. The beacon appeared first, a small, automated station floating alone in the void. It was Villani design, ancient but still functional. Then the sensors picked up something else. Commander, the sensor officer said. His voice was strange. I am detecting debris. A lot of debris. 2. From what? Unknown. Bringing up visual now. The main display changed. Seraph felt her 4 eyes widen. The space around the beacon was filled with wreckage. Twisted metal. Shattered hulls. The remains of what had once been warships. Dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. Those are Villani ships, someone whispered. Seraph stepped closer to the display. The officer was right. She could see the distinctive design of Villani patrol vessels. Border guard ships. Small destroyers. All of them torn apart like they had been attacked by something impossibly powerful. How old is this wreckage? She demanded. The sensor officer worked his controls with shaking hands. Analysis suggests. Commander, some of this wreckage is only a few years old. Some of it is decades old. The attacks have been ongoing. Sarah felt a cold sensation spread through her body. For decades, ships had been disappearing in this sector. Everyone assumed they had been lost to accidents or engine failures. But this was something else entirely. Someone had been hunting them. "Move closer," she ordered. "I want to see the wreckage in detail." The fleet approached slowly. As they got closer, the true scale of destruction became clear. There were at least 50 destroyed ships, spread across a massive area. Whatever had killed them had done so over many years, patiently, systematically. "Commander," another officer called out, "I am detecting markings on the wreckage. Some kind of message. Show me." The display focused on the nearest piece of wreckage. It was the bow section of a patrol ship, its hull torn open like paper. And there, carved into the metal in perfect Villani script, were 4 words. "I remember New Busan." Seraph read the words 3 times. Her mouth went dry. "Check the other wreckage," she said. "Look for more messages." The search took an hour. Every single destroyed ship had the same words carved into its hull. The same message, repeated over and over. "I remember New Busan. I remember New Busan. I remember New Busan." "It is him," someone said. "The Iron Ghost. He has been here all along." "Silence," Seraph commanded, but her voice shook slightly. "This proves nothing. These ships were destroyed over many years. Whoever did this could be long gone by now." As if in response to her words, the lights on the bridge flickered. "What was that?" Seraph demanded. "Unknown," the engineering officer replied. "Running diagnostics." The lights flickered again. Then they went out completely. Emergency lighting activated, bathing the bridge in red. Seraph heard alarms beginning to sound throughout her ship. "Report! We have lost main power," the engineering officer said. His voice was high with fear. "All systems are failing. The engines are offline." "How is that possible? We are a warship." "I do not know, Commander. It is as if something is draining our power directly from the core." Seraph opened a communication channel to the rest of her fleet. "All ships, report status." The responses came back, each one worse than the last. Every ship in her fleet was experiencing the same failures. Engines dying, weapons going offline, life support beginning to fail. Something was killing them, and they could not see it. "There!" a sensor officer screamed. "Movement. On deck." 7. Seraph grabbed a weapon from a nearby guard. The internal cameras activated. Deck 7 was a cargo area, filled with supply containers. At first, Seraph saw nothing. Then, a shadow moved. A figure stepped into the light. He was human. Old, far older than any human had a right to be. His face was a map of scars, his hair white as starlight. He wore armor that looked like it had been built from the wreckage of 100 different ships, and he moved like death itself. The guards on Deck 7 opened fire. The human did not slow down. He walked through their weapons fire as if it was rain, dodging and weaving with impossible speed. His own weapon, some kind of modified rifle, fired back with perfect accuracy. In less than a minute, all 12 guards were dead. The human looked up at the camera. His dark eyes seemed to stare directly at Seraph through the screen. Then he spoke. His voice was quiet, calm, and terrifying. "Run." Seraph ran. She made it to an escape pod. She launched herself into space, tumbling away from her dying flagship. Through the small window, she watched her fleet burn. The human did not use missiles or torpedoes. He used the ships against themselves, overloading their reactors, turning their own systems into weapons. One by one, 12 warships exploded, taking 20,000 Villani souls with them. When it was over, Seraph floated alone in the darkness. Her escape pod drifted through the wreckage of her fleet, past the bodies of her crew, past the burning remains of ships that had been invincible just hours ago. A shadow fell over her pod. A small ship appeared, battered and ancient, covered in centuries of battle damage. A hatch opened. A mechanical arm reached out and grabbed her pod, pulling it inside. Seraph prepared to die. She had failed. The legend was real. The Iron Ghost would kill her now, just as he had killed all the others. But when the human appeared before her, he did not raise his weapon. He simply looked at her with those ancient, dark eyes. "You will live," he said. "You will return to your Empress. You will give her a message." He pressed something into her hand. A small data chip. "Tell her that Do-Hyun Kang sends his regards. Tell her that I am coming." Then darkness took her. When Seraph woke, she was in her pod again, drifting toward Villani space. The old ship was gone. The human was gone. Only the message remained, and the memory of those eyes, patient and cold, that had waited 300 years for revenge. The throne room was filled with the highest leaders of the Villani Empire. Admirals, generals, governors, and nobles had all gathered at Empress Thalia's command. They whispered among themselves, confused and worried. No one had called such a meeting in over a century. Then Commander Seraph walked through the great doors. She looked different. Her silver skin had faded to a sickly gray. Her uniform was torn and stained. One of her 4 eyes was swollen shut from some injury. But worst of all was the look on her face. She looked broken. The whispers stopped. Everyone stared as Seraph walked slowly toward the throne. Her footsteps echoed in the massive chamber. When she reached the base of the stairs, she fell to her knees. In her hand, she held a small data chip. "Commander Seraph," Empress Thalia said. Her voice was cold and controlled. "You took 12 warships and 20,000 warriors to investigate a simple beacon. Where are they?" "Dead," Seraph whispered. "All of them. Gone." The throne room erupted in shocked voices. 12 warships destroyed? 20,000 Villani killed? It was impossible. Thalia raised her hand for silence. "Explain." Seraph looked up at her Empress with her 3 working eyes. "The Iron Ghost. He is real. He is alive. And he is more powerful than any of us imagined." She held up the data chip. "He let me live to deliver this message. He wanted you to see it." End quote. "He let me live to deliver." Lord Ven, standing beside the throne, stepped forward. "Play it." A guard took the chip and inserted it into the throne room's communication system. The massive display screens around the chamber flickered to life. A face appeared, human, old, scarred, but unmistakably alive. Do-Hyun Kang looked out at the gathered Villani leaders with eyes that had seen 3 centuries of war. His white hair was cut short, military style. His face showed no emotion at all. He sat in what looked like the cockpit of a small ship, surrounded by screens and controls. When he spoke, his voice was calm and quiet, but every word carried the weight of 300 years of patience. "My name is Do-Hyun Kang. I was born on a colony called New Busan 327 years ago. I was a farmer's son. I became a soldier, and then your empire made me into something else." He paused. His dark eyes seemed to look directly at Empress Thalia. 300 years ago, you burned my world. Your ships came without warning. Your soldiers killed without mercy. I watched my wife, Suman, die protecting our daughter. I watched my daughter, Yuna, reach for me as the flames took her. She was 7 years old. The throne room was completely silent. Not even the nobles dared to whisper. "You thought you killed everyone that day. You were wrong. I survived. And I swore an oath over the ashes of my family. I swore that I would never forget. I swore that I would make your empire pay for what it did." Do-Hyun leaned forward slightly. "I have kept that oath for 3 centuries. I have destroyed your ships. I have freed your prisoners. I have studied every weakness in your empire, every flaw in your defenses, every lie you tell yourselves about your own superiority. But I did not do this alone. The image changed. It now showed something that made every Villani in the room gasp. Ships. Thousands of ships. Human ships, but different from the old designs in the historical records. These were sleek and powerful, built with technology that looked far beyond anything the Villani possessed. They stretched across the screen in formations that seemed to go on forever. When your empire attacked us, you thought you were exterminating a weak and primitive species. You were wrong. You were teaching us. You were making us stronger. The image changed again. Now, it showed planets. Green worlds. Blue worlds. Worlds covered in cities and lights. Human worlds, hidden beyond the edge of known space. We did not die 300 years ago. We retreated. We hid. We rebuilt. And while you grew comfortable and lazy in your stolen empire, we prepared. Do-hyun's face returned to the screen. I have spent 3 centuries keeping your attention on me. Every ship I destroyed, every base I attacked, it was all to make you look in the wrong direction. While you hunted for one old man, an entire civilization was growing in the darkness. He smiled. It was not a warm expression. My people are ready now. 400 billion humans, spread across 100 hidden worlds. Our technology has advanced beyond anything you can imagine. Your weapons cannot hurt our shields. Your shields cannot stop our weapons. And I am going to lead them home. The image showed Do-hyun standing now, surrounded by younger humans. One of them, a young woman with his same dark eyes, stood at his right side. She wore a military uniform covered in medals and insignia. This is my great-great-granddaughter, Minji Kang, Do-hyun said. She was born free, in a galaxy you have never touched. She has never known the fear of Villani occupation. She has never seen her family burned alive. His voice hardened. She represents what humanity could have been, if you had left us in peace. She is our future. And she stands with me now, ready to take back what you stole from us. The final image was of Do-hyun alone again. His scarred face filled the screen. I am giving you one chance. One chance that you never gave my wife. One chance that you never gave my daughter. One chance that you never gave. New Busan. Surrender. Free the worlds you have conquered. Release the species you have enslaved. Accept judgment for your crimes. If you refuse, I will do what I have dreamed of doing for 300 years. I will watch your empire burn, and I will remember every moment of it. Just as I remember every moment I spent with my family. He leaned close to the camera. You have 1 standard month to respond. After that, we come. And nothing in this galaxy will be able to stop us. The screen went dark. The throne room remained silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, every eye turned to Empress Thalia. She sat frozen on her throne. Her face showed no expression, but her hands gripped the armrests so tightly that the ancient bone began to crack. Impossible, she finally said. This is a trick, a deception. My Empress, Lord Ven said quietly. I do not think it is. One of the admirals stepped forward. Even if the humans have returned, they cannot match our military. We have the largest fleet in the galaxy. You have 12 destroyed warships, Seraph interrupted. Her voice was hollow. I watched him do it alone. One old man, against 12 warships. He did not even seem to be trying. The admiral fell silent. Thalia stood from her throne. Her tall figure cast a long shadow across the room. We will not surrender, she declared. We will not show weakness. We are the Villani Empire. We have ruled this galaxy for 300 years. One human, no matter how old, no matter how patient, will not take that from us. She looked at her gathered leaders. Prepare the fleet. All of it. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon we possess. If the humans want war, we will give them war. As the leaders hurried to obey, Lord Ven remained by the throne. He looked at his empress with ancient, tired eyes. You did not see his face, Ven said quietly. In the archives. In Seraph's recording. He is not afraid of war. He has been waiting for it. Preparing for it. Dreaming of it. Thalia looked down at the old advisor. Then we will give him what he wants. She turned away, but not before Ven saw something flicker in her 4 eyes. Fear. For the first time in her reign, Empress Thalia was afraid. The month passed. Empress Thalia gathered the largest fleet in Vallani history. Ships from every corner of the empire came to the border, forming a wall of steel and fire that stretched across 3 star systems. 800 warships. Millions of soldiers. Weapons powerful enough to crack planets. They waited at the edge of known space, where the old beacon still floated in the darkness. They waited for the humans to come. On the 31st day, they came. The first sign was the stars going dark. One by one, the distant points of light simply vanished, blocked by something too large to comprehend. Then, the sensors began to scream. Ships. Thousands of ships. They appeared from nowhere, dropping out of some kind of travel that the Vallani had never seen before. One moment, the space ahead was empty. The next, it was filled with an armada that dwarfed the Vallani fleet. Admiral Crix, commander of the Vallani forces, stared at his displays in disbelief. That is not possible. Where did they all come from? Unknown, Admiral. His sensor officer replied. We are counting over 4,000 vessels. Many of them are larger than anything in our fleet. Their power readings are. We are counting over 3. Away the missers onum saying to 2. Admiral. Their power readings are off our scales. The human fleet arranged itself in perfect formation. At its center, barely visible among the giants, was a single small ship. It was old and battered, covered in scratches and dents from centuries of combat. But it flew at the head of the formation, leading the way. Do-Hyun Kang's ship. A communication signal reached the Vallani fleet. Admiral Crix accepted it. A young woman's face appeared on the screen. She had Do-Hyun's dark eyes, but her expression was different. Where his showed cold patience, hers showed fierce determination. She wore the uniform of a human fleet captain, decorated with symbols that Crix did not recognize. This is Captain Minji Kang, of the Human Liberation Fleet, she said. By the authority of the Human Council, I am ordering all Vallani forces to stand down. You have refused our offer of peaceful surrender. You will now face the consequences of that choice. This is Admiral Crix of the Vallani Imperial Fleet, he replied. We do not accept orders from humans. Turn back now or be destroyed. Minji smiled. It was not a kind expression. You have 800 ships. We have 4,000. Your technology is 3 centuries out of date, and we have spent 300 years preparing for this exact moment. She leaned forward. But I am not here to argue with you. I am here to deliver a message from my great-great-grandfather. The image changed. Do-Hyun Kang appeared, sitting in the cockpit of his ancient ship. He looked at the Vallani admiral, with eyes that had seen more death than any living being should ever have to witness. 300 years, Do-Hyun said quietly. I have spent 300 years waiting for this moment. I have dreamed of destroying your empire, of watching your worlds burn the way my world burned. He paused. His scarred face showed no emotion. But my wife, Suman, believed in mercy. My daughter, Yuna, believed in second chances. I almost forgot that. In all my years of war, I almost became as cruel as you. Do-Hyun looked down at something off-screen. When he looked back up, his expression had softened slightly. My family reminded me. Not my dead family, but my living one. Minji. Her mother. Her grandmother. All the generations that came after the war. They showed me that humanity is more than just survival. More than just vengeance. So I am giving you one more chance. This is your final opportunity. Surrender now, and your soldiers will be allowed to go home. Your leaders will face trial for their crimes, but your people will not be harmed. We will not become you. We will not burn your worlds. We will not kill your children." His eyes hardened. "But if you fight, we will win, and we will remember that you chose war when we offered peace." The communication ended. Admiral Crix looked at his officers. They looked back at him with fear in their eyes. The sensor readings were clear. The human fleet was more powerful than anything they had ever seen, but they were Villani. They did not surrender. "All ships," Crix ordered. "Attack." The battle began. It lasted less than 3 hours. The human ships moved like nothing the Villani had ever faced. They were faster, more maneuverable, and their shields seemed to absorb everything the Villani weapons could throw at them. When they fired back, their weapons tore through Villani hulls like they were made of paper. Do Hyun Kang's small ship led every charge. It danced through enemy formations, destroying ships 10 times its size. The old warrior had not lost any of his skill in his centuries of waiting. If anything, he had become even more deadly. Minji flew beside him, commanding a massive carrier that launched wave after wave of smaller fighters. She had inherited her ancestors' talent for combat, but she also had something he had lost long ago: joy. She fought not out of hatred, but out of love for her people, and hope for their future. When the battle ended, 500 Villani ships had been destroyed. The remaining 300 had surrendered or fled. The human liberation fleet had lost less than 20 vessels. Admiral Crix was captured alive. He was brought before Do Hyun Kang on the bridge of the old man's ship. "Kill me," Crix said. "I have failed my empire. I deserve death." Do Hyun looked at the defeated admiral for a long moment. "No," he said finally. "You deserve to live. You deserve to watch what comes next. You deserve to see your empire transformed into something better. Great, most part. Great." He turned away. "Take him to the holding cells. Treat him with respect. He is a prisoner, not a trophy." As Crix was led away, Minji approached her ancestor. "That was merciful of you. It was necessary." Do Hyun replied. "If we become like them, we will lose ourselves. Your great-great-grandmother understood that. She would have wanted me to remember." Minji put her hand on his shoulder. "The first phase is complete. The border fleet is destroyed. What now?" And Do Hyun looked at the star map. 3 systems had already been liberated, their Villani garrisons surrendering without a fight when they saw the size of the human fleet. But at the center of the map, the Villani throne world still glowed with enemy red. "Now we free the others," Do Hyun said. "The Villani have enslaved dozens of species, billions of beings living under their rule. We offer them a choice. Join us or stay neutral. No one will be forced to fight." "And Empress Thalia?" Do Hyun's expression grew cold. "She will answer for what her empire has done. Not just to humanity, but to everyone they have conquered. Justice will come to her, one way or another." He looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, on the throne world, Thalia was receiving news of her fleet's defeat. She would be afraid now. She would be desperate. That made her dangerous. "Send the message to all conquered worlds," Do Hyun ordered. "Tell them the Iron Ghost has returned. Tell them humanity has come to free them. Tell them that the age of Villani tyranny is ending." As the message went out across the stars, something remarkable began to happen. On world after world, the enslaved species rose up against their oppressors. The Villani garrisons, already demoralized by news of the border defeat, found themselves facing enemies on all sides. The empire that had stood for 300 years began to crumble, and at the center of it all, patient as always, Do Hyun Kang waited. He had spent 3 centuries preparing for this moment. He could wait a little longer to see it through to the end. But somewhere in the back of his mind, he could hear his wife's voice, soft and gentle, reminding him not to lose himself in the war. "I remember. he whispered to no one. I remember everything. Empress Thalia stood alone in her private chambers, staring at a map of her crumbling empire. 3 weeks had passed since the battle at the border. 3 weeks of defeat after defeat. 20 star systems had fallen to the humans. 15 more had declared independence, their populations rising against Villani rule. The slave species that had served the empire for centuries were now fighting alongside their liberators. Her advisors urged her to negotiate. Lord Ven begged her to accept whatever terms the humans offered. But Thalia refused. She was the Empress of the Villani. She would not bow to anyone, least of all to a species she had been taught were primitive and weak. She needed a weapon, something that could stop the human advance, something that could break the Iron Ghost himself. And then she found it. The planet was called Haven. It was a small world on the edge of human-controlled space, home to a species called the Renari. They were gentle beings, known for their art and music. When the humans arrived, the Renari had welcomed them as friends and allies. 10 billion Renari lived on Haven. 10 billion innocent beings who had done nothing wrong except befriend humanity. Thalia gathered her remaining fleet. 200 ships, all that remained of her once mighty navy. She personally led them to Haven. The Renari had no defenses. They had no weapons. When the Villani fleet arrived in orbit, they could only watch in horror as the ships took position around their world. Thalia sent a message to the human fleet. Do-Hyun Kang, she said. I know you are watching. I know you can hear me. I have 10 billion Renari under my weapons. In 12 hours, I will begin destroying their cities. In 24 hours, Haven will be nothing but ash. She paused, letting her words sink in. You can stop this. Surrender yourself to me. Come alone, unarmed, and give yourself up. If you do, I will spare Haven. If you refuse, I will kill everyone on this planet. Every man, woman, and child. Just like we killed everyone on New Busan. She smiled. You have 12 hours. Choose carefully. The message ended. On the bridge of his flagship, Do-Hyun Kang watched the recording in silence. Around him, his officers argued and debated. Some wanted to attack immediately. Others urged caution. Minji stood beside her ancestor, her face pale with anger. This is madness, Minji said. She is using innocent people as shields. We cannot give in to this. We cannot let 10 billion people die either, another officer replied. The Renari trusted us. They welcomed us as friends. If we surrender the Admiral, we lose everything, Minji argued. He is the symbol of our resistance. Without him, the coalition will fall apart. Then what do you suggest? The officer demanded. We attack and the Renari die. We do nothing, and the Renari die. What other choice is there? The argument continued. But Do-Hyun said nothing. He stared at the image of Haven on the main display. A beautiful world, blue and green, full of life. Finally, he spoke. I will go. Everyone fell silent. Grandfather, no, Minji said. This is exactly what she wants. It is a trap. Of course it is a trap, Do-Hyun replied. His voice was calm, almost peaceful. But what choice do I have? I have spent 300 years fighting this war. I have killed more Villani than I can count. I have done terrible things in the name of justice. He looked at his great-great-granddaughter. Your great-great-grandmother died protecting our daughter. She gave her life so that Yuna might live, even for a few more minutes. She did not hesitate. She did not calculate. She simply loved. This is different, Minji insisted. You are not just protecting one person. You are leading a revolution. Billions of people are counting on you. And 10 billion Renari are counting on me too, Do-Hyun said. I cannot let them die. I cannot become the thing I have been fighting against. He stood and faced his officers. I started this war. It is fitting that I should be the one to take this risk. If I die, You will continue the fight. Minji will lead you. She is stronger than I ever was. I do not want to lead, Minji said. Her voice cracked with emotion. I want you to stay. Do-hyun walked to her and placed his hands on her shoulders. He looked into her eyes, the same dark eyes that had looked back at him from his daughter's face 300 years ago. I have lived for 327 years, he said softly. I have seen wonders and horrors beyond counting. I have loved and lost, and loved again. I have watched generations of my family grow up and grow old and pass away. He smiled. It was a gentle expression, one that Minji had rarely seen on his scarred face. I am tired, child. I have been tired for a very long time, but I could not rest until I knew humanity was safe. Until I knew you were safe. We are not safe yet, Minji whispered. The war is not over. The war will never be over, Do-hyun replied. But this war, the war I started 300 years ago, it needs to end. And I am the only one who can end it. He released her and turned to address the room. I will go to Haven. Alone, as Thalia demanded. I do not expect to survive. But I want you all to know something. He looked at each of them in turn. Humans and Renari and members of a dozen other species, all working together, all fighting for the same cause. You are my family now. All of you. You carry on the legacy of Nubusan, of Suman and Yuna, and everyone we lost. Whatever happens to me, that legacy will continue. Humanity will continue. Freedom will continue. He walked toward the door. Prepare a shuttle. I leave in 1 hour. Minji wanted to stop him. She wanted to argue, to fight, to find some other way. But she saw the look in his eyes. It was the look of a man who had finally found peace. She let him go. 1 hour later, a single shuttle departed from the human fleet. It carried no weapons, no escorts, no protection of any kind. It flew straight toward Haven, toward the Villani fleet, toward Empress Thalia. Do-hyun Kang had spent 300 years as the Iron Ghost, the terror of the Villani Empire. Now he flew to meet his enemy, alone. But as his shuttle approached the Villani flagship, he smiled. Because he knew something that Thalia did not. He knew that this was not the end of his story. It was just the beginning of the final chapter. The throne room of the Villani flagship was smaller than the one on the throne world, but Empress Thalia had made it impressive. Banners hung from the ceiling. Guards stood in perfect rows. A throne of black metal sat at the far end, and Thalia herself sat upon it, waiting. The doors opened. 4 Villani soldiers dragged a human between them. Do-hyun Kang had been beaten. His face was covered in blood, his arms bound behind his back, but his eyes were still clear, still sharp, still patient. The soldiers threw him to the floor at Thalia's feet. The Iron Ghost, Thalia said. She rose from her throne and walked slowly toward him. The legend, the terror of my ancestors. And here you are, on your knees before me. Do-hyun looked up at her. He said nothing. I expected you to be more impressive, Thalia continued. But you are just an old man. Old and broken and weak. I am old, Do-hyun agreed. But I am not broken, and I have never been weak. Thalia laughed. You surrendered without a fight. You gave yourself up for a planet full of aliens you have never even met. That is weakness. That is love, Do-hyun replied. Something your empire has never understood. Thalia's laughter faded. She leaned down until her face was close to his. I am going to execute you, she said. Publicly. I am going to broadcast your death to every corner of this galaxy. I am going to show everyone that the Iron Ghost was just a man, and that man can die. I know, Do-hyun said. I have known since I left my ship. Then why did you come? Do-hyun smiled. It was an unsettling expression, coming from a face covered in blood and bruises. Because you think this is a victory, he said. You think that killing me will end the war. But you are wrong. Killing me will only make me stronger. Thalia frowned. What do you mean? I have been the Iron Ghost for 300 years, Do-hyun said. I have become a legend, a myth, a story that parents tell their children. But legends can grow tired. Legends can make mistakes. Legends can be forgotten. He looked directly into her 4 eyes. Martyrs never die. Before Thalia could respond, alarms began to sound throughout the ship. What is happening? She demanded. An officer ran into the throne room. My Empress, our systems are failing. Something is interfering with our power grid. Impossible. We scanned him. He has no weapons, no technology. Do-hyun laughed. It was a quiet sound, but it filled the room. You scanned my shuttle. You scanned my clothes. You even scanned my blood. He smiled wider. But you did not look closely enough. He held up his bound hands. Even through the chains, tiny lights began to glow beneath his skin. In my blood, he said, there are billions of microscopic machines. Technology, 300 years beyond anything you possess. They have been spreading through your ship since the moment I came aboard. Through the air, through the water, through every system and circuit. The lights on the ceiling flickered and died. Emergency power activated. But it was already failing too. You cannot kill me fast enough, Do-hyun said. Even if you shoot me right now, the machines will continue their work. Your ship is already dead. Your fleet will follow. Thalia stepped back. For the first time, true fear showed on her face. But that is not why I came, Do-hyun continued. I did not come here to destroy your fleet with machines. I came here to deliver a message. The same message I have been delivering for 300 years. Axis. The main display screens in the throne room flickered to life. They showed feeds from across the galaxy. The Vellani throne world. Conquered planets. Space stations. Military bases. Everywhere, the same thing was happening. Screens were activating, showing not Vellani propaganda, but something else entirely. Human faces, thousands of them, millions of them, speaking in every language, telling every species the same thing. People of the galaxy. Minji's voice rang out. I am Captain Minji Kang, of the Human Liberation Fleet. 300 years ago, the Vellani Empire tried to destroy humanity. They failed. Vellani Empire. The image showed the human fleet, vast and powerful, moving through space. For 3 centuries, we have waited. We have prepared. We have never forgotten the crimes that were committed against us. Against you. Against everyone who has suffered under Vellani rule. Images appeared of the slave worlds, of the conquered species, of the atrocities committed in the name of empire. Today, that ends. Not through destruction, but through justice. Not through revenge, but through liberation. We are not here to become a new empire. We are here to free everyone who has been chained by the old one. Minji's face filled the screen. She looked so much like her ancestor, but there was something different in her eyes. Hope. My great-great-grandfather taught me that humanity's greatest strength is not our technology or our weapons. It is our ability to love, to hope, to believe in something better. He fought for 300 years so that we could have this moment, so that we could offer you a choice. Join us, not as subjects of a new empire, but as partners in a new future. Help us build something better than what came before. Help us create a galaxy where no species is enslaved, where no world is burned, where no family is torn apart. The age of empires is ending. The age of freedom begins now. The message ended, but the screens continued to show feeds from across the galaxy. Everywhere, people were rising. Slaves were throwing off their chains. Soldiers were laying down their weapons. The Vellani Empire, which had stood for 300 years, was crumbling in a single day. Thalia stared at the screens in shock. This is impossible. It is history, Do-hyun said. He rose slowly to his feet. His chains fell away, unlocked by the machines in his blood. Your empire was built on fear and cruelty. It could not last forever. Nothing built on such foundations ever does. He walked toward her. The guards raised their weapons, but they did not fire. They could see what was happening on the screens. They could see their empire dying. I have dreamed of this moment for 300 years, Do-hyun said. I have imagined killing you 1,000 different ways. I have planned your death in every detail. He stopped an arm's length away from her. But I am not going to kill you. Thalia looked at him with confusion and fear. Why not? Because my wife believed in mercy, Do-hyun said. My daughter believed in second chances. For 300 years, I almost forgot that. I almost let my hatred destroy everything that made me human. He looked at the screens, at the images of people celebrating their freedom across the galaxy. My family reminded me. Not the family I lost, but the family I found. Humanity is not defined by vengeance. We are defined by our ability to be better than our enemies. He turned back to Thalia. You will face trial for your crimes. You will answer for what your empire has done. But you will have a chance to defend yourself. A chance that you never gave New Busan. A chance that you never gave my wife and daughter. Thalia's legs gave out. She collapsed onto her throne, staring at the old human with something like wonder. You could have destroyed us, she whispered. You had the power, the technology, the right. Yes, Do-hyun agreed. I could have. But that would have made me no different from you. He walked toward the throne room doors. The guards parted to let him pass. The war is over, he said without looking back. Humanity has returned, and we are going to build something better than what came before. He paused at the door. I am going home now, to see my family, to rest. I have been fighting for a very long time, and I am tired. He looked back one last time. His dark eyes met Thalia's. Remember this moment, Empress. Remember that humanity had every reason to destroy you, and we chose not to. Remember that mercy is not weakness. It is the greatest strength of all. Then he was gone. 10 years later, Do-hyun Kang passed away peacefully in his home on New Busan. The planet had been rebuilt, a memorial to those who had died, and a promise to those who would live. He was surrounded by 4 generations of his family, children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren who had never known war. He was 347 years old. The galaxy mourned him as the Iron Ghost, the Liberator, the human who refused to die. Statues were built in his honor. Songs were sung about his deeds. His story became legend, told to children on 1,000 different worlds. But to his family, he was simply Haraboji, grandfather, the old man who told stories about a beautiful woman named Suman and a brave little girl named Yuna. On his grave marker, a simple inscription, husband of Suman, father of Yuna. He remembered them to the end, and beneath that, in smaller letters, the words that had defined his life: I forgive, but I do not forget, and I will always choose love over hate. The Iron Ghost was gone, but the legacy of Do-hyun Kang would live forever.